Okay, so a cracking semi-final tie there, and Fraserburgh through to the final of this season's League Cup. I'm joined, as always, by Callum Law and Paul Third, well, as normal, I suppose, to discuss the games from the weekend. That one, first of all, I thought it was a cup tie played in the right spirit, both teams going at one another.
Yeah, very much so. I think the first thing I would say, and given the post-match interview for Andy Kirk, we'll probably spend a fair bit of time talking about decisions here, but the thing for me, I think, whatever anyone thinks about decisions, they shouldn't detract from what I thought was an excellent Fraserburgh performance in terms of, Mark touched on it in his interview a wee bit, but they really found a way to stop Brechin playing. It wasn't necessarily the Fraserburgh you're used to in terms of sort of 100 mile an hour going and really pressing teams the whole time, because we've seen maybe teams do that and Brechin will knock it around you and cause you problems. They played in a slightly different way. For me, I thought they did a really good job of stopping Brechin playing through the middle of their team. Brian Hay, Kieran Simpson, Jamie Beagrie as the three centre-halves, and then Greg Buchan, Paul Young and Logan Watt in midfield. I thought they, in the sort of middle of the pitch, had excellent games. And if you look at over the highlights, there's only really two gilt-edged chances for Brechin. One of them's Fraser McLeod's goal, another one's the one that Grady McGrath puts wide, whereas which I think if you're Fraserburgh you'd be delighted with. And then another side of it, I thought they carried a threat going forward. They've scored two really good goals in terms of the way they've worked. In the first one, I mean, Ryan Cowie's sort of desire to make the run beyond to make something happen is what makes it really. And then the second one, the pass is great, and I thought Ryan Sargent's first touch was top class as well to give himself the shooting chance. And then if you look at it as well, Ryan Sargent's another one ruled out for offside, which maybe come on to, but I think it looks very tight. He was denied by Lenny Wilson as well, and Connor Wood's a chance at the end, so they could have maybe scored more. Brechin, I mean, Andy Kirk touched on it a wee bit. I thought front end they were just lacking a wee bit. Funnily enough, once they went down to 10, I thought that sort of sparked them a wee bit and got them playing with a bit more intensity. And when they scored the goal, they were on top for a wee spell. But then I thought in the closing stages, despite their sort of best efforts, Fraserburgh saw it out quite well.
Andy Kirk, obviously, as you touched upon, there was a bit of chat post-match about decisions and officiating in the game. What did you make of the red card, first of all, for Ewan Spark?
It's not a red for me. I don't think it's a second bookable offence. A free kick, maybe, but it's one of those ones where whichever end of the whichever penalty box it's happening at, the opposition manager is going to be screaming for a booking and a free kick, I think, but not for me.
Well, I think it's unfortunately in our shot there you can't see where the referee is, but I think it's soft. Like, I mean, Ryan Sargent has gotten the touch and gotten in, and then I suppose if you're running at pace, a bump can send you over, but I think he's perhaps keen for the contact and to go down, so I do think it's soft. But I think if you're Filippo Mazzoni, the referee, the position he had running towards it and being a bit back, it probably looks as if, and he only, you have to remember as well, I've watched this back about 10 times looking at it, he only gets one shot at it, and it probably looks like he's sort of run across Ewan Spark and potentially even been clipped. I don't know, only he could answer that, but I think the view of it he has probably makes it look more than it is. I was interested to see that it was second booking that he got, because I thought initially Ewan Spark had got a straight red, because if he gets to the ball first, Sargent, he's having a shot, and you could say, the position he's in, you could say that's a clear goal scoring opportunity. So I was quite interested that he went for the second yellow, but I think it is on the soft side potentially, but as you say, I think it's a classic. If it's for your team, you're saying it's a foul, get him off, delighted with it, no complaints. And if it's against your team,
you're feeling hard done
you think it's hard done, but I think it's a classic one of them.
What I would add though, Andy also mentioned the first goal, and he felt there'd been a tackle from behind that was a foul on one of his players. Having seen the highlights, I don't see that at all. I think it's balls one fair and square for me.
Logan Watt comes from behind on Fraser McLeod, but sitting in real time watching it, he thought he played the ball. For me, watching the highlights, he still plays the ball from behind maybe, but I think that's another one again. I mean, there was a few Brechin supporters shouting about it as well. If the roles were reversed and that challenge had been made and Brechin went on to score, I don't think you'd have had any home supporter, even even the fairest of them, saying, "Oh, that should have been a foul in the build-up." I thought it was a good challenge, and Fraserburgh won and scored. And I mean, if you're wanting to be really critical as well, potentially in between that challenge and the goal happening, Brechin did have the ball back and lost it again. But as I say, I mean, for me, I didn't think that was a foul at all, and I don't think that should detract from the very good goal that came after that.
Yeah, and as you said, there's a debate to be had about whether the earlier incident was actually an offside or not.
Yeah, it's the Sargent's second goal in quotes. If you sort of look at it, we don't have the full sort of right along the line shot, unfortunately, but looking at it when Logan Watt crosses the ball, it looks very, very marginal to me if he's beyond Michael Cruikshank when the cross comes in. So you talk about decisions, Ken, it's the thing with football, some go for you, some go against you, and you have to, I mean, as frustrating as it can be, you have to react to them.
I understand Andy Kirk's frustration, to be fair, because it's borderline decisions that can go either way, but none of that should take away from what was an excellent performance from Fraserburgh. And I think, as Callum touched on in the preview show on Friday, what was it, 29 games unbeaten at home against Highland League opposition in League and Cup. So for Fraserburgh to go there, score twice and win a cup semi-final is an outstanding afternoon for Mark Cowie and his players.
Okay, well that was one of the GPH Builders Merchants League Cup semi-final ties. The other one, as I touched on earlier, Brora Rangers against Keith, was postponed, as was the Breedon Highland League game between Strathspey Thistle and Wick Academy. That was due to an accident on the
A9 between Golspie and Brora.
So my strong suit. Okay, then I think we could perhaps label that one one-sided. Huntly are now top of the Breedon Highland League. Another fearsome display of finishing from them, as you'll have seen. Clachnacuddin, they're still winless, and ultimately their boss, Jordan McDonald, paid the price for that defeat on Sunday.
Well, I was going to say, before we get into the game, obviously, with everything that happened in the A9 and the crash and the other games going off, deeply unfortunate, but I would like to give credit to our cameraman who filmed that game, Kenny Elric, because he was meant to be going to Brora Keith, and when he got the shout to turn round to say he was going to be tight for time for making kick-off at Christie Park was an understatement. So to get there and get all the goals, I think he deserves a lot of credit. So thank you, Kenny. I hope the viewers enjoyed your efforts. But
the footage was black and gold, Callum.
But going into the game, I think Huntly, obviously, I think they've kicked on again. They've had an excellent start to the season. I mean, they're the top scorers in the league now, 29 goals in 8 games, top of the league on goal difference. Brilliant result for them. I mean, everything that could have gone right on Saturday did. But I think you also saw the difference between a team playing with confidence and a team lacking in confidence, just in terms of, like, Clark. I mean, I know the game was gone, but if you look at the start of the second half at 5-0, Clark did have 2 or 3 really good chances, but just sort of, not the conviction to take them, whereas just about every time Huntly got into the last third, they were either working the goalkeeper or scoring, and that illustrates the difference. And then you see a couple of the goals that Clark maybe lose as well, and again, just probably shows that difference between a team on a bit of a high playing as well as they are, and a team sort of stuck in a bit of a rut, really. I mean, but you've got to give a lot of credit to Huntly. I mean, Andy Hunter scored 7 goals in 3 games, and all competitions. Our last 3 games in all competitions, 15 goals scored, none conceded. I mean, that's outstanding form regardless of who you are. And, you know, top of the league at the moment, I imagine you'd still get pretty sizable odds on them being top come April. But why can't they keep going? Like, on their day, they're showing they're an excellent team. Why can't they keep going and sort of try and stay up in the mix as long as they can? I will add that be another sort of acid test for them on Saturday, because it's Fraserburgh that are going to Christie Park, so I'd be interested to see how that plays out. But certainly Huntly couldn't be going into it in any better a vein of form.
Pick the goals.
Hunter's free kick.
I was going to say, yeah, Hunter's free kick's really clever, because everyone's expecting him to ping it in the top corner, and he just curls it perfectly low round the wall into the bottom corner.
If you were being cruel, you could say the own goal, but I mean
It is a great finish.
That perhaps summed up Clark's day and their form. Jordan McDonald's obviously lost his job as manager subsequently, and I do think the sort of relegation trapdoor potentially that is there now is probably a factor in that, because Clark's sitting with 2 points in the league and it's quite tight at the bottom, and the sort of run they've been on, I think there is just that. They might tell me otherwise and feel free to, but I think there is that fear of finishing bottom, and potentially a club, all the history of Clark as well, been in the Highland League for so long, to won it so many times in the past, to potentially lose their status. I think that's probably played a part. I did think Clark, they won last week in the Scottish Cup against Inverurie, and I did think that would maybe, keeping a clean sheet as well, would maybe be the turning point and the spark for them. But clearly on Saturday that wasn't the case. And Jordan, I think over these 3 years he did do a good job, all things considered. He's put together a decent team, but it hasn't quite worked for whatever reason this season. Blair Laurie and Martin Callum in interim charge, 2 guys that been there for donkey's years as players, know the club, but obviously haven't been managers. So I'd be interested to see who gets that job, because in Highland League terms, Clark are a big club, and the sort of setup and the youth and the sort of infrastructure they've got there in terms of trying to bring players through. I think for a lot of people it would be quite an attractive job as well.
We'll have to wait and see. Buckie Thistle 6, Nairn County 0 was one of Saturday's other scores. 6 different scorers for Buckie: Josh Peters, Jack McIver, Dale Wood, Max Barry, Scott Adams and Marcus Goodall. All names we're very familiar with, all on the score sheet. Sounded like Buckie were more clinical in that game, and that was maybe something they'd been lacking in recent outings.
Well, it had been, but they scored 4 last week in the Cup and 6 on Saturday, so I think we can put that to bed again. Just what you wouldn't say 6-0 was quite the scoreline you would expect, but I would say the result is what I would expect for Buckie. Just back to their norm, really. Good win. Nairn, up until the last couple of weeks now, had been in good form. Good 3 points crossed off for Buckie, and I think seeing the sort of scorer spread around. Josh Peters come back in, scored. Max Barry, Jack McIver, Scott Adams, Marcus Goodall. Dale Wood, without being unkind to him, Dale, probably not somebody you'd be expecting to chip in with, say, 10, 15 goals a season, but the rest of them, I'd say, probably are all capable of that, so I'm sure that'll please Jag supporters to see them all scoring. For Nairn, that's 2 defeats in a row now after 5 wins in the bounce. I think they've seen, or Stephen Mackay's seen this season, when they've played the likes of Buckie and Banks of D away and in a couple other games, there is still that gap a wee bit that they need to try and bridge.
Losing Connor Gethins sounds
to injuries doesn't help either.
Yeah, don't really know how serious that is, do we?
Seems to be his hamstring, but who knows. But I know Connor will be itching to get back, because he's that kind of guy, but it could be a while potentially.
choking and itching.
See a doctor either way, Connor.
Worse than a hamstring. For Martin United 2, Turriff United 4 was a headline grabbing result from Saturday. For Martin, has been on a long unbeaten run in the league since first game this season against Brechin. But John Allen opened the scoring for Turriff United. He's been on the score sheet a few times in recent weeks. Paul Campbell then failed to score from the spot to get a goal back, but it was 1-1 at half time. Adam Emsley scoring for the home team. However, Ewan Clark sounded like he had quite the afternoon. Ewan Clark, he scored. Keane Adams was then sent off for Martin for 2 yellows. Clark then won and scored a penalty to make it 3-1. Aaron Norris and Owen Kinsella traded goals, so it was 4-2 at this point, and then Clark continued that blockbuster afternoon by getting himself sent off for a second yellow right at the end of the game. I'm not surprised with this result though, by Dean Donaldson, the Turriff United manager, saying belief is growing in his side. That's a result that shows you.
He's got a good team. He's got a very good team. And we talked about them last year of being so young and having to take a few hard hits at the odd weekend, especially against the leading sides. A result like that shows you the progress that Turriff are making. And it's not going to be an easy game for any side playing Turriff home or away this season, I think, because they have that threat.
It's similar to Huntly, isn't it? Look like they can score a lot of goals.
Well, that's the thing, and I feel like I've said it just about every week this season with Turriff, but with John Allen, Ewan Clark, and then again, although he's still injured, Neil Gold, when he comes back into things, they carry those strikers. They carry a threat, and if you can score goals and cause teams problems, you always give yourself a chance. And the big thing, if you talk about progress, is Turriff last season, 34 league games, got 36 points. They've played 9 league games this season. They've already got 18 points.
They can have an off day and still grind out a result and win. That's the big difference for me with Turriff United. And they didn't have an off day on Saturday. When they were at it, bang at it, they've gone to and beaten a very good Formartine side.
I mean,
very impressive.
You look at Formartine as well, probably a bit unexpected, because I think you have to go back to February 2022, January, February 2022, something like that, for the last time they conceded 4 goals for Martin. So it's, not in their character, certainly.
So it's just a bad day at the office for Martin.
That's what the manager will be telling his players.
Stuart Anderson, there was a quote from him afterwards which probably summed it up, where he said everything that could go wrong did go wrong, really. So you've just to take it and try and move on.
All about the reaction for me.
Callum, I imagine you got pretty decent odds for that.
You would have done if there was a market for it. I mean, the damning thing, really, if you look at Saturday, the Inverurie Locos 0. It's four games now in which they failed to score, and there's a lot of different things. Maybe they're sort of wanting to restructure the makeup of their squad and go with a younger team and maybe rebuild over a longer period. But when you're struggling to score, it does, to an outsider looking in, look a wee bit odd when you see the likes of Gary Wood and Johnny Smith leaving the club, who, don't get me wrong, are probably nearer the end of their careers than the start, but they would still.
Let's go a little bit further back.
Goals.
Let's go a little bit further back. You've got a man leading the line for Huntly here who's bagging in, what was it, 7 goals?
He's 9 already a season, 7.
And Andy Hunter, who was once wearing the red and black, and they've kind of let him go,
If you want, I mean.
And Neil Gold, still?
If you go further, you can go. I think going too far back's maybe a bit harsh, in the sense that different managers have different opinions on things, and that probably leads to players leaving. But it's certainly, that is the issue for Inverurie, is now, I would say, is lack of goals. Because I mean, Saturday and last week against Clark, they've had chances in both games, but haven't taken them. I mean, so they need to solve that clearly. But for Rothes, a welcome win. I mean, they've sort of haven't felt like they've hit their straps yet this season. They've maybe struggled for goals a wee bit on Wednesday night. By all accounts, they played really well against Carly Thistle in the North of Scotland Cup, but got beat 1-0. But then Saturday they've managed to turn it round. Aidan Wilson is a proven goal scorer for them, and he's had quite a tricky sort of pre-season and start to the season. He'd problems with his knee, and he's only just been coming back into it and playing and building his fitness up. So a goal will be a welcome boost for him and for Rothes. And the thing as well, when Rothes have been at their best in recent years, clean sheets have been the foundation, with Sean McCarthy and the likes of Bruce Milne, Michael Finnis at the back. These players sort of the leaders in their side, leading by example and keeping clean sheets, and that was clearly a good one for them to keep on Saturday.
That is the difference between those two sides. Rothes can grind it out and nick a goal. Locos are not looking like scoring, and it's putting pressure on the team defensively. And the odd 1-0 here and there, and it's been a regular thing for them.
On Locos, we're talking earlier about Clack, perhaps looking downwards and sort of pushing the panic button because they're thinking, well, you finish bottom, there's a lot more jeopardy. Now, I'm not saying Locos are in trouble at this stage, but they are below Clack in the table. They're above Strathspey by 1 point. By restructuring the squad at this point in time, that could obviously also go. It could end up being a positive, and results could improve, but it could go the wrong way as well.
You could apply that to Clack and Locos. They're two clubs without a manager,
I think the thing is with this sort of route they're wanting to go down, a more youthful route, I think that is longer term. But if you look through their squad, it's not like they're suddenly going with
Teenagers, yeah.
15 teenagers. Like you've still got Greg Mitchell, Mark Souter, Jamie Mickey, Callum Dingwall, Paul Coots. There's still, and there's probably a couple others I've missed out there as well, but there's still a core experienced players or guys that are even in their sort of mid-20s who've been around and know what it takes to win games in the Highland League. So for me, if you're speaking about them being at trouble at the bottom end, I don't think they will be. Where they might end up this season, hard to say, but I do think there will. I do think there will come a point where they will put a few results together, certainly, and move up a bit.
All right, well, that's all of the weekend's games discussed. So let's have a look at the Breedon Highland League standings.